UFC pre-fight press conferences are a much anticipated event. It's a chance for the fighters to speak their minds about the upcoming match. Spectators look forward to these events to get an insight into the fighters' personalities and to understand the tension that will unfold in the octagon. The press conference before the fight usually takes place in different locations. A ring is often placed in the center of the room or stage. Microphones are set up around it for the fighters and journalists. The questions typically come from members of the press, and the fighters respond with either brief or elaborated answers. They also get to throw some playful jabs at one another. As the pre-fight press conference progresses, tension between the two fighters can be felt in the air, and more often than not, they verbally threaten each other with knockouts and losses. After the initial press conference is done, the traditional stare-down occurs. Both fighters are usually escorted by their cornerman to enter the ring. During the stare-down, both fighters maintain a foot or two away from each other. At times it gets intense, with both men ready to square off in the octagon. Both UFC fighters will oftentimes take this opportunity to talk trash to each other, pushing each other with their words. When the stare-down is finished, each fighter takes a break in their respective corners, so the journalists can ask additional questions. Friends, family, and UFC staff members are usually present at the pre-fight press conferences. It's a special night for the fighters and their supporters. Following the press conference is often a weigh-in event, in which both fighters must meet the weight requirements set by the UFC before the fight. Before every fight, the UFC requires all fighters to attend the official pre-fight press conference. This is so that each fighter can answer questions about the upcoming fight and declare their intentions to the public. It's also a chance for both fighters to get a mental edge on one another by trying to intimidate each other with words and actions. Throughout the press conference, the atmosphere in the room is usually intense. The fighters will try to provoke each other and make intimidating remarks. After the press out, both fighters will enter the ring and stand face to face for a stare-down. During this time, they will usually exchange verbal hostilities, talking trash to each other. There's often a lot of energy in the room during the stare-down. UFC staff members and family are watching each and every move the fighters make. Before each fight, a medical conference is held to discuss safety protocols. This takes place before the official pre-fight press conference in order to determine the medical clearances of the fighters. All fighters must go through a physical examination before their fight, including a visual assessment and blood tests. The results of these tests will then be reviewed before the official pre-fight press conference takes place. At the press conference, fighters will answer questions about their backgrounds, training, goals, and strategies for the upcoming match. Before the official stare-down and weigh-in, the fighters typically won't answer questions from the press. They will instead let their cornerman do the talking. At the stare-down, the fighters will usually ignore the press and focus on each other, intensifying the already heated atmosphere. Fans also get to see a different side of the fighters during the stare-down. They can see how passionate each fighter is about winning, and they get a clearer idea of what might happen in the octagon. The pre-fight press conference is also a great opportunity for the fighters to market themselves. Both fighters will oftentimes bring their own brands and products to the press conference, to showcase to the public. The press conference usually brings out some interesting personalities from both fighters. They may hype themselves up, or take jabs at each other. The UFC works hard to make sure that their pre-fight press conferences are fun and entertaining. They provide an opportunity for fighters to share their stories and for viewers to get an insight into the fight ahead. Ultimately, the pre-fight press conference is an important part of the build-up to a UFC fight. It serves as an opportunity for fighters to market themselves, build up hype, and have an opportunity to talk trash and mentally prepare for their upcoming battle.